Now, after such an illuminating discussion, we have a speaker session coming up exploring the topic, how the global community is making executive tech history for service industries, a Dentist and the Pragmatic 4.0 mesh. With more advanced systems that enhance service delivery, the Pragmatic 4.0 mesh enables the global service community to create better enterprises and implement new improvements in their working environment. Our speaker, who is also the founder and CEO of FlowPatterns, will go into further depth about this cutting-edge technology and how it will influence dentistry clinical practices. Join me in welcoming Christopher Sabourin. Welcome him to the stage.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you, Internet 2.0, for putting this on both in the U.S. and the UAE. We have a global community, and I'm excited to talk about that a little bit. So how the global community is making executive tech history for service industries. I am a dentist. My name is Christopher Sabourin, and I'm a dentist second and entrepreneur first. So why is a root canal doctor up here as the expert for executive technology? And what is executive technology? A couple things about myself. Growing up as a child, I grew up poor. There was a specific time I remember where me and my three brothers and my mom were at McDonald's, had no money. We shared a large fry, and somebody sent a bunch of hamburgers to our table. That was the first moment I learned about altruism. It was very important in my life. Other things, growing up as a child, I was born in the 70s. I'm almost 50. And that was just in time for a big economic crash. My father lost his job, and that began a journey of moving around the country. I moved about 30 times by age 18. And then from there, my first job was delivering newspapers at 13, where I would be dropped off to deliver newspapers in apartment complexes at about 4 in the morning. And what was really cool about that during the 80s was that was when the dollar got detached from gold. And that's where a lot of businesses, a lot of business activity started. I got to read that in the newspaper every morning. Growing up as an adult, I mentioned I'm an entrepreneur first. And that was what I realized probably out of the newspaper thing. And I realized that entrepreneurship is a rough journey. And I picked a profession that was, while entrepreneurship can be very different, I chose dentistry because it's very stable. And so that was my career choice, but my education was really about people. So I learned psychology, I learned physiology and anatomy because I determined that if I learned about people, well, we're all people, we're all here for a purpose, a reason we do things. I could figure life out. And so that was wonderful. And then, and very, very useful. I'll get into that. And then lastly, I was at UCSF for dental school, where I was the president of the school. I worked nights. So I go to school 8 to 5, and then I would work in the ICU from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So during that time, and I was the president of the school, during that time, I learned about industriousness, of course, but I was there during the .com, which was huge. Right. So imagine that. And I chose to stay in dentistry, even though I could have moved down the street and become an instant millionaire until it crashed. So what is the take home? I don't believe it matters. I mean, it does matter if you're in an environment. But when you connect the dots at the right time, I do agree with the statement by Steve Jobs that it creates a story and is very powerful. You just have to be patient. As an entrepreneur, I actually gave up at 40, put it on the side, and then came back. That's enough about me. How does service plus Web 3.0 lead us all into Industry 4? All these terms. I'm in the service industry, not manufacturing, but there's some similarities, and we'll talk about that. Web 3.0, where all these things come together. It's amazing. And Industry 4, where things become automated, usually ascribed to manufacturing, but it can also be to a degree for service. So where do all these technologies come together, though? We have all these pieces. We're talking about a lot of them right now. How do they come together to really benefit us? Because they're all wonderful. And will it improve our lives? Or is it scary? And I can tell you it's going to improve our lives. What are we at right now? So we have been working on this for 5 years. One of my superpowers is seeing economics. So we got started on this about a year before the election, just in time for the COVID crash, where we got to stay and work for 2 extra years in the dental office as we saw root canal patients. We're 2 years of extra work ahead. These crashes are very significant. They're times of creativity. It's true. So where we are at right now, we're a couple months away from using AR goggles to visualize, like in the first slide, where treatments are occurring, how far along they are. We're a year away from using AR, mixed reality, to do purchasing. And I mentioned global community. I'm particularly interested in working with a company called Argon, which is in Pakistan. Why? Because we're international now. And then lastly, IoT, which we're talking about. Because this pump you see here with IoT, if it goes down, it costs me $50,000 for 1 week while I wait for a new one. If we can flag these things in advance, which gets sent to the repair team, which gets sent to the vendor, which get a bill, which goes to management, we can have things done in advance. I don't lose this money. So if you ask me also weaved within this, I mentioned people are my thing. How does one build the habit of continuous improvement with measurable goals? This is Peter Drucker. I read a couple chapters of his book and put it down because his thinking is too similar. I have to set it to the side. So we have to think about the people as well, not just the tech. And that's where I come in. Because I think the tech should wrap around the people should not wrap around the tech. And so we have an opportunity to address the people here. Why also did this kick off in my brain? Well, the fact is, the people that are in our small businesses and in service, we experience too much pain. I know pain. I'm a root canal doctor. I know fear and I know pain, every shade. And it's painful to watch people in pain. My team was in pain. Too much pain for me to make $2 million a year and sit there and watch that. So industry services are falling behind. There's a schism between people sitting at a computer and those of us that walk around and do our job in a hospital, in a medical office, in a dental office. And you see this because you come to the appointment and you sit there for an hour. That's because, maybe 5 hours. It's because we don't have the organization that these people sitting at computers, most of us here, have. We don't have that clarity in our work from 8 to 5. Onboarding was an overwhelming pain point. I'll show you some of the numbers in a moment. Hidden bottlenecks were eating up my time as a doctor. And then the patients come in and think it's me, right? It is me. Ultimately, it's my responsibility as a business owner to fix this. And I believe the owner could, by empowering their team, run the office 90% on autopilot while monitoring the bottlenecks rather than micromanaging their team. It's very dehumanizing, right, to micromanage. And it's rampant. So the problems and opportunities. Customer acquisition and talent retention is huge. It's staggering, the costs. They're hidden costs. You don't know it. You don't see it yet. Well, actually, let me mention, somebody told me that Amazon spends 25% of their income on employee turnover. 25% of Amazon's income is spent on employee turnover. Hearsay. New technology adoption and onboarding. We don't have it. We need it. Talent sourcing and further retention. And this culture of continuous improvement where we can, I look around and I have people, they have amazing brains. And we have to get them from problem to solution because everyone can bring a solution. So what I found was that there were 4 pillars in executive tech. and like I mentioned, made for people. The 4 pillars are learn, because you have to start with the people. With all this problem, all these problems, all these confusions, you have to start with empowering the people and getting the information first in their head about how they're doing their job. This is micro training, some people call this, or just-in-time training. The other is learn and then do. This is also missing. Where's a platform that we're using during our day to keep us organized? So when we learn, like you see here, you start off with the information. From there, you go to do, which is your day-to-day, because you need support and structure as you work. My team that supports me. Next is improve, which is how do you move into this realm of continuous improvement? And with all these minds, I think it's like 80% of people are in these businesses. That's a lot of brain power. And then lastly is plan, because we have to be proactive. And how do we plan for the next step? IoTs, for instance, we just mentioned is part of that. So there's a lot of exciting things. So right now, we're going to be rolling out learn and do. Improve and plan are very exciting, and they'll come shortly. So we can't solve the problems the same way that we think when we created them. And somebody mentioned earlier, and just a little bit, you know, these folks that are trying to crack into the IoT, they don't play by the same rules, right? They just do what they need to get the thing done. That's different thinking and structure. So you have to be aware. And so when you start from a different perspective, and I didn't learn tech intentionally. I didn't learn business intentionally because I wanted to go into the field and see what it's really like and learn from that. What I found was threads of time and standards were the things that were most important. And also, of course, this mobility, this freedom. So it's not that we have a short time to live. We waste so much of it, whether it's at work or at home or, you know, whatever it is. You waste so much time in your life. You have no idea. And this is about time. What kind of finances does this time have an impact on? Onboarding in small businesses takes us half a year. Side-by-side training. It doesn't have to be like that. So here's my team. And you can see 8 hours. Now, this is in USD. I know that there's various pay everywhere, especially having worked around the world. I probably worked with 60 companies or more, probably 160 at this point, all over the world. And I see the disparity. And so let's talk about how much it costs to train folks. Now, if you can see this, it's exorbitant. Even my first starting team member, boom, cost me $7,000. When you get up into higher end, it's $60,000. This is side-by-side training. Now, the other thing to mention is these folks turn over. They're looking for greener fields. So they don't stay very long. They're here for a year and a half, maybe 3 years, then have to train somebody again. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And the costs are staggering. So that's just the savings on onboarding. But you also make more when they become effective and they start working. The business does better because we're accumulation of people. And also when you go, well, we'll touch on this in a second. This is that double click. I think you're going to have to double click for me. Okay, perfect. So what does this look like? So let's get into the actual platform. So you now as a team member, the colors on the side there are learn, do, improve, and plan. You can see statistics on your own sentiment. These are sentiment pieces about how you feel about the work that just happened. You also get to run on time. You get to see your day not from 8 to 5 as one huge chunk. Rather, the work gets objectified and broken up. And that turns busy people that are trying to figure out what to do to productive people. Also, in the front desk, if you're a patient coming in, you don't have to wait anymore. Why? That's all your time coming back to you. This is because the team is now more effective at providing service to support the provider. It gives the provider the most time to provide your service. They can hand tasks off to other team members. They can move it up the chain because I'm next in line to do my part. And that is a better experience for you as a patient. And the front and back, which often can't see what the other's doing, are now connected real time. So you can see that that operatory is running on time or behind, that service location, that hospital room, that construction zone. We have a lot of service industries, 21 industries. What does that mean for metrics? You get to be objective about giving somebody a raise, targeting improvement for them, because you can see where they're struggling. And that changes the entire environment at the office. We've been doing this for 10 months now. What results is the last mile for service industry data. What does that look like? I'm going to give you a story. So this is my team. Like I said, we started in June. Now this is their sentiment score. It's just one tiny little piece of the data that we have. But you can see my team, this was before we got the data, by the way. My team is very happy if you were to look at it. It's not the truth. Now data, what I found is it doesn't take away your problems, but it does help you identify them, and it helps you address them quicker, and it helps reduce the amount of time that you're having hardship. So you can see my team's doing great, but oh, wait a second, they're going to start not being so happy in a moment. Now I'm going to tell you the difference is, one is the truth, and the other is what you want to tell your boss, right? Because we have these social dynamics. People can't help it. I don't want to get fired. Everything's fine. As you can see here, we started addressing a problem, which I'll show you in a moment. And they didn't get so, they were now objectively, because they realized their emotions are important. They can identify these things faster. What was the problem? Another sentiment thing, this time it's from patients, because our patients matter. Of course, we want to know how they're doing. This is all closed loop. This is not just a sentiment score. This is all built into an entire closed loop system. Now, what had happened was in June, a lady at the front desk, her husband took a job in another state. I didn't find out until right about there when she shared it. But you could see it was having a serious impact for my patients. This was under the hood. I didn't know why. I'm in the back. Now you can see in the upper right, the patients are not even wanting to. I have an amazing practice. They don't want to come here anymore. So we started getting to work on it. That affects sentiment. And then from there, boom, back up. We did this whole reconstruction thing, reorganization thing everybody needs to do. We did it in that period of time. We're ready for any kind of downturn. Also, we dug deeper. Management's not on the platform yet, which is called Seneca. They will be. And what we found was management had made some choices. I've been under the captain of the ship down in the bottom of the ship for the past couple of years, come up and find out what's going on. Well, they stocked too many patients that aren't really income producers. We are still a business. We have to balance this stuff out. When we found that it had already cut our income by 25% for that month. Devastating, especially since I don't have any money anymore, right? So used to just, okay, here's the doctors throwing money in. I can't do that right now. So we found the specific business problem as well. We can also look at effort spent. The first two top, those two folks have the same job. And the third one from the bottom also has the same job. This is very common, where you have hardworking people that get, here, give it to Mikey, he likes it, right? Here's my work, because they'll do it. This is imbalance in the workplace. And we can now balance the people with the same job to do the same amount of work. Also, time spent. Now, the whole system, you can ramp it up or ramp it back, because pace of life is different sometimes. If you're in a COVID situation in a hospital, you might have to work a little faster. So we can address that. Also, very curiously, this fits into the American Medical Association and what they want as far as data for restructuring healthcare insurance. Time, physical effort, how long it takes, stress. Why is that? Because insurance is sold as a commodity, but really we're a service industry. So all these things together create this organism, this business made up of people, and it's real time. It provides for an outlet for sensory IoT and also suggestive AI. You saw, for instance, okay, this triggers, that's going to come next. You might want to make a change because your patients are going to start advising other people not to go there. So this gets into suggestive AI. So all these components, if we're going to play, you might have to double click this one as well. There we go. All these components, it's international. So in the .com, what I found was this is a perfect time. There's all these different tools. They all need to have a place to live. They're all important, but they all need a place to live. So we get to do things like a pragmatic AR marketplace. Why is it pragmatic? We're mobile. We need a mobile marketplace. They can't sit at a computer. It's not their job. Interwoven IT, because I want one flag, one click. I don't want one machine to go down and tell everybody, hey, we're out for the week. These are important pieces that keep the business running. Also suggestive AI, because people don't have a way to keep track of time. We don't. There's no physical way that we keep track of time. So suggestive AI becomes very important to let us know what's coming. And then maybe, just maybe, we get to restructure US healthcare insurance, which is huge, with new data. So this is a global partnership because really there are different parts all around the world that have concentrations that are ahead from other areas. And it's really quite an amazing journey that we've had. So the vision for our connected futures are, from where I sit, very positive. They're very exciting. So thank you. This is a QR. If you'd like to talk, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you all. No question. Thank you. I thought we had a couple plans.
Christopher, good morning. Thank you so much. That was really informative. I'm Nadine Chino. I'm an impact inventor. So your last comment was people can't keep track of time.
Yes.
Would you mind to expand on that a bit? I'd like to understand the kind of the psychological underpinnings of what makes that so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So there's two parts of this. One is biological and the other is metaphysical. Biologically, we perceive time. So we perceive time. Oh, that went by really fast. It was 3 hours. That was the best movie I'd ever seen. It felt like 30 minutes. God, that day took so long. I couldn't wait for it to end. That was the longest day I've ever had. This is how we deal with time. I think there's a bird species that can kind of keep track of time, but I don't even think that's true. So in our biology, in our brain, we have nothing that keeps a metronome in life. So it's all by perception. But our patients don't show up by perception to the hospital. They show up at a certain time, hopefully. And so this is a huge disconnect. So your day may be flowing and working, and boom, it's gone, or boom, it drags on forever. And also the morning is different than the evening. So this biologically, there's just not the capability. So therefore, how do we have that? We all think we have some kind of, but look up you go into your physiology, there's no such thing. The second thing is a little deeper, which is right now in theoretical physics, there's a lot of discussion around time actually doesn't even exist. It's a connection between movement, physical kinetics, and matter. And it creates time, perception of time. And time changes the slower things get. So that's why time is different in the International Space Station, right? the twin brothers, one just lived just a couple seconds more than the other now. So change is physiological. So you have to, you know, say we're in on a different planet, you'd have to make certain adjustments to stuff like this. But time is crucial. It's crucial because we have expectations around time. My patients have expectations around time. My staff has expectations around time. My family has expectations around time. So, and that's why the platform is called Seneca that we use, because time, along with the whole Caligula situation, I think it's a good time to remember Seneca's education of Caligula. It's a good time for that, to revisit that, but also the importance of time. And so if we have technology that helps us keep track of our own time, we get to be more efficient, use our time. I mentioned this makes my office work twice as efficient. It can make a hospital work twice as efficient. I have hospitals hoping to start this soon. That stuff also ripples into your personal life. My staff goes home and they're less stressed, except for building this gigantic beast. But I've had, you know, I work in an industry with 95% female, and I've had husbands call me up later and say, I don't know what happened, but she's happy when she comes home. And so this is a ripple effect when work, and also I make a distinction between work media and social media. So work is different from social. So this all has a ripple effect when we are more tight with our time. So biology, but I think underneath the biological reason is that the fact that there may actually not be a reality of time. That's a whole different discussion. Yeah, but long answer. Any other questions? No. I'd like to thank, oh, yeah.
So you mentioned several times about time and schedule. Do you manage schedule as well? Oops.
Yes.
So does your software manage time and schedule for both doctor, nurse, hospital, and the patient, including the visitors?
Including the what?
The visitors of the patients.
The visitors of the patients. That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that. Visitors of patients, that's more into the hospital realm. That's probably our next industry, dentistry and hospitals. And so I'm sure it could, but this is really a closed loop system for the support team, right? So that the doctors have their specific time, the right amount of time to do what they need to do to provide, because that's what you're there for. You're there for the service of the physicians. But as far as visitors coming in and out of the hospital, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That might be handled more locally by the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does your system connect to the asset management or medicine management software?
This is a great question. Thank you for bringing this up. So this is a new platform, and its purpose takes place after scheduling the patient and to the end of the day. So it fits in that from 8 to 5, but it does not touch scheduling software. It does not touch, we don't have patient healthcare information in here. We don't have financial information in here, but it can all be connected. Absolutely. So asset management, these things, like I mentioned, it's an ecosystem. Our goal is not to take everybody, it's to provide jobs, right? To provide these connections.
Yeah, I'm not saying take over the other software's feature. I'm saying you integrate with the other software, because when you're scheduling time, say Dr. A needs to be in building A at a certain time.
Yeah.
So then Dr. A will need the nurse, the medicine, the equipment.
Yes. So all that is connected for that. So what it does is connects from that point that they're scheduling. You're supposed to be there at that time.
Okay.
But for instance, my daughter had a surgery, and we waited for 5 hours for that surgery, right? So we work off of what's supposed to be happening as opposed to reality. So things like you're supposed to be in that room. Well, if that happened, none of us would ever be waiting for the doctor. So there is a complex ecosystem, which is what you're referring to. With there's doctors, there's dentists, all that stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. So we took a step back and dug deeper. What I realized was there's a lot of missing data. So the data structure is needed. So you actually have to go quite a bit deeper to make this new data. And from there, yes, you can connect things just as you typically do. Scheduling can be connected, for example, with an API thing. We've talked about weak points and addressing those with, bad players. And that's going to be always part of it. You can't get rid of bad people. So, but you have to have security. And you have to do these things. IoT will play the most part in equipment. And that's where IoT is going to come in as far as equipment failure. But what we'll do then is connect the right people to make those decisions, make it efficient way to then trigger the people that need to then purchase that. And that plays into.
So I have experience to the emergency room, and you have to wait for a long time. I think majority of people, if they go to the emergency room, they will have similar experience. So it's unacceptable from our point of view as the patient point of view. So is your software can be modified or connect to support, optimize the business process within the emergency room and support it supply chain in order to make it more efficient.
Absolutely. So because it's a closed system, we're just a couple months away from your patient. You're supposed to be having an appointment at a certain time. You get a message an hour before. Hey, I check in like you do for airports, right? Not location, but temporal location. So you can see if they're running on time or not, and they can see if they're showing up on time or not, because we have to meet at the same time at the same location. So this is, yes, as a patient, you will get a notice and say, oh, they're running 2 hours behind. I can't do that. I have to be at Internet 2.0 in 2 hours. Then you can't. So if you're running, oh look, they're 15 minutes, 15 minutes behind, so that kind of works out. Then bam. Okay, so your time as a patient is back to you. Our time is paid. Patients aren't, we shouldn't expect them to wait there forever. And in an emergency room, you're there for an emergency. So these are the things that we have to go a little deeper. We had to go a little deeper. A lot of deeper.
Okay, that's good. So in your mind, say if you are awarded a prime contract from US HHS to optimize the emergency room scheduling, performance, review, customer feedback, what will you do? And what's the major impediments? How much does it cost? What resources will you need?
That's a very good question. And there's, in my mind, two parts to that. We're almost done. 5 seconds here. One is the interplay between government and business. I'm a capitalist. I'm an entrepreneur. I like little government involvement if possible. I would turn away government unless there's a specific reason. I would also foresee where the money's coming from. Secondly, is the data, however, is needed by government or is needed by insurance, and we can address that at that time. But it is very important in depth. I do see those things as possible. It's a very complex answer. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
So do you want this contract or not?
Oh, so tough. It hasn't been offered. Possibly, if there's not too much government involvement, I think I would. If we can work, yes, I would want it. But if it does not affect the underpinning business, I want to be sure it influences people in a good way. And if that's along for that ride, great. If it becomes, well, let's take this and X, Y, Z, then we might have a problem. But yes, it depends. Let me back up a little bit as my heart goes to capital and say, maybe I would love to hear more about it. I'm here to help people as much as possible and as many people as possible. That altruism back to the very beginning. So I think we've gone over on time. Let's talk more.
Okay.
Let's talk more, please. Thank you very much.
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.